Welcome to another episode of What Works For Me, a podcast highlighting best practices in Christian schools. This podcast is produced in partnership with Lutheran Education Association. To discover how LEA supports Christian teachers and schools, visit www.lea.org. My name is Rob Lunak, and I'm the superintendent of Lutheran Neighborhood Schools in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My co-host Mike Sheeman is not going to be here today, but that's okay. We have a fantastic episode planned. Today, we are speaking with Lisa Wedel. Lisa is the librarian and technology manager at St. Paul's Lutheran School in Janesville, Wisconsin. I had the privilege of serving with Lisa for a few years. It's great to get to see her and talk to her again. So, Lisa, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you give us a little intro?
Thanks for having me. I have been at St. Paul's for about 8 years. I was hired to be the librarian there, and then I took on the role of technology manager when our previous principal left us, and we needed someone to fill those shoes. So I've been doing that for a few years, and I really enjoy both positions.
Now, because I had the privilege of serving with Lisa, I had asked her earlier, do you want to be introduced as Lady Who Does Everything? Because that's about how it is. She does a ton of things there. And what we're going to talk about is not librarian stuff and not technology manager stuff, but at St. Paul's, they do something neat called Harmony Houses. What are Harmony Houses?
Okay, so Harmony Houses, we were looking for something to bring our students together, kind of make us a more wholesome school and more interaction. We had a lot of division between our classrooms, and we wanted to be more as a family or a team. So years back, one of my fellow teachers had went to this RCA conference at the Ron Clark Academy. If you have not heard about them, look them up. They're fantastic, a lot of energy, a lot of great ideas. When I wanted something to do that, I went back to her original idea of these Harmony Houses. And then I had went to a conference at ISTE where one of their presenters was presenting, and it kind of sparked more interest again. I was like, okay, I need this energy at our school. How do I make it happen? And then the ball just kind of rolled from there.
Okay, so it sounds like it's a great way to kind of unify the school, puts a lot of energy behind it, gives a little bit of direction to some of that, which sounds really great. So, okay, you have Harmony Houses, and how does that break up? How many houses are there? How do kids get put in a house? How does all that happen?
So we have 4 houses, and we have the way that we did it. Now, I did a lot of different research to find out how other people did it. And when you're at the Ron Clark Academy, they have this cool wheel that you can spin. Unfortunately, we didn't have that really awesome wheel. So we divided how many students there were in the house. There was a card for each student, and with equal numbers between the class for each house. Does that make sense? So if there's 20 kids in the class, there's 5 of each house, 5 card of each house in that class, so that the class would be equal as well. So then at the beginning of the school year, with our opening chapel, each class came up to the front of the gym. We did this in the gym because we needed a lot of space. And they each pulled a card out of there was envelopes. Cards were in the envelopes. They pulled a card out, and then we all cheered for them, and then they separated their ways. And in each corner of the gym, we had a bunch of balloons and stuff that represented their house color. So that's how we divided.
Well, that makes sense because I can already, I think, hear some of the teachers like, well, their house has 2 fewer kids than my house, right? So this makes it nice and even.
Right. And then the teachers wanted something, if they were going to divide into groups in their classes, they could just say, hey, divide into your house groups, opposed to having to make up groups.
Well, I hadn't even thought about that benefit. Yeah, you can easily, all of a sudden, you can divide your whole class into fourths right away. Everyone knows what it is. So if a kid gets put in a house, are they in that house just for that year? Are they in that house forever? How's that work?
In the house forever. So now this year, we've had quite a few new students come throughout the year. So the same thing, we would do a chapel, and then they would draw from one of the first kid that came. I was like, all right, well, we'll make this fair. And we had each of the houses there And then when the next kid came, we only had the 3 houses left. So we're still trying to make it as equal as possible.
Hmm. I kind of like that they're in it permanently because they get this opportunity to build kind of those long-term relationships that we talk about. And our Lutheran schools are always such family-oriented places. It gives that kind of another anchor point where you can build a relationship that is long-term. I kind of like that. So you're going to get a kid who like is in it in kindergarten, grows up through it, and then by the time they're eighth grade, they're like the leader of it, and that's really neat.
Yes. They'll keep everyone in their house. And then the other thought process with that was they wouldn't have to switch because we do like house wars days and stuff. They wouldn't have to buy the next year. We don't want to have to buy all new purple stuff because we were
Hmm.
yellow here before.
Okay. So okay, House Wars. What is House Wars?
Well, so when we do different things throughout the school year, we'll do like we just had Lutheran Schools Week,
Hmm.
so it was um, for whatever dress up day it is, then we'd go around to each classroom and the house that had the best dressed or the most participation would get Harmony House points for participation.
Okay. So how it sounds like that's a pretty big motivator for the kids, right? How have they reacted to this whole new thing?
They're excited. They get really excited. And they're not quiet about it, which I love. Oddly enough, being the librarian, everyone expects quietness, but no, we do a lot of yelling and cheering when, to celebrate those
Hmm.
milestones that they've accomplished together as a house.
So in the classroom, you got those four houses already. The kids are divided up evenly in a class already. Has that led to kind of opportunities for kids to either improve things they're doing or to pull people up if they've been sliding off? Like, hey, you're part of my house. We need to do better than this. Has that started happening too?
They know they're starting to realize who everybody is. And you're in my house, and like we just did a reading competition. So, oh, we've got this fantastic reader, but I know I'm not such a good reader. I can be like so and so. So there's a little bit of competitiveness there. We still do have the kids that are like, I just don't want to do anything. But we're seeing an overall majority participation.
I really like that. So, okay, kids sound totally on board. You made some tweaks so teachers, it's going to be very practical for them. How's the teacher buy-in been?
I have a decent buy-in. This is only the first year we're doing it, so I'm hoping for more next year. It is an app that you can put on your phone, so some were like, okay, I love that. It's an app I can have right there. Then of course I just don't want another app on my phone. So I can see it both ways.
Hmm.
But even those that don't participate in actual giving up Harmony House points, they'll see me in the hallway and um will be like, so and so did something kind today, or something above.
Hmm.
Can you make sure that you give them a Harmony House point? So then I do that. It's going good.
Okay. Well, anything the first year, right? There's going to be some growing pains and some
Right.
things you need to tweak. But I've always noticed that if the kids are really excited about it, the teachers eventually get there. Not as quickly, but they eventually will get there. And it sounds like it's giving everybody reason to focus on the things that are going really well and the things that kids are doing greatly, right? And I think sometimes we need a little bit of that motivation to notice that, hey, kids are doing great things. Kids can do, whatever it is we want them to do. Have you noticed that? Has that just been giving people a reason to focus on more of those positives?
It has, and you know, oddly enough, things like holding open the door and stuff like that. That kids just don't do that as
Hmm.
they used to. There's lack of manners sometimes, for a better phrase. So I make it a point when I'm going in the morning. I usually have my coffee in one hand and my arms full of stuff in the other. And any kid that's going to open the door for me, I'll be like, great job, Eli. Harmony House points for you. That's so kind. So now I see like everybody's rushing
Hmm.
to open the door. But I tell them, you can't ask me for a point because I'm not going to give you
Hmm.
a point. So I've seen the kindness build. I've seen the manners improve, all from simply handing out a Harmony House point.
That's great. Okay, 4 houses. I don't think I asked. What are the names of the houses?
Oh, okay. So we wanted to go off of the fruits of the spirit, and in our at our school we have this phenomenal Spanish teacher. She's absolutely amazing. So because we teach Spanish um, there as well, we decided to, instead of using kindness, peace, patience, and faithfulness, we went with amabilidad, paz, paciencia, and fidelidad, which are the Spanish names for those fruits of the spirit.
I think that's great, and I like that there's that a kind of cross-curricular connection. That's a great idea. I know some other schools will use like Latin or French or whatever, but I think it was wise move to pick something that you guys are currently doing. And yes, that Spanish teacher is pretty phenomenal. I'll agree with that. Okay, so people are listening. They say this is great. I totally want to do this, but I'm probably not going to go to ISTE and I'm probably not going to go to RCA, right? So
Right.
where can that person start?
The Ryan Clark Academy, you can just go to their website and they have all the information there. You can, all I did was contact them for a quote to see how much it would be, because they have such a phenomenal program. Could I have pulled this off on my own? Absolutely. Like if I didn't have the money to do that, but I also didn't have the time or energy to do what they've already done, and I didn't want to totally recreate the wheel. So we got sponsors and donations to help fund the cost and ran it that way. So anything that you need is going to be at their website, and you can. They're great at communication and responding. Great customer support. So reach out.
There you go. If somebody says, okay, that's great, but I don't know them, can they email you? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Make sure that you put RPA or Rob Lunix contact subject line. Otherwise, there's a good chance that I won't read it. And give me some time to respond.
There you go. Yeah, you're a busy lady. I get it. Well, if you get like 50 emails, I'm sorry. I will apologize ahead of time. Although, what a great problem to have, I guess.
Right. No, great program. And it would be cool to see other Christian schools use it, so then we could find ways to support each other that way too.
Yeah,
What are they doing that we could do? What are we doing that I like it?
yeah. I think that's a good connection. If you had to pick one kind of the biggest benefit that you've had with this program, what would that be in your mind?
The buddy system. So we, in our houses, we incorporated buddies. So each house um, will have a buddy of an upper grade student and a lower grade student. And then we do different things like reading the library together, or if we're doing an all school activity once they're in their house, that older student is responsible for kind of guiding the younger student along. And it's really cool to see. And then there's different chapel services where we sit with our houses, and the buddies will sit together in the chapel. So it's really cool to see how the upper grades mentor the lower grades. And the little kids love it. They get so excited when they see the buddy in the hall, and get the big grin, and it's even better when the buddies high five. It's neat to watch.
I love that connection. I know a lot of schools will do kind of chapel families, and this is kind of like that, although it sounds like this is way more intentional about the behaviors you want to see. I think the points probably motivate some of the kids who normally would be a little disinterested in chapel families. That competition, healthy, friendly competition, sounds like it's probably a motivator for a lot of the kids.
Yes. With the buddy system, I must say one that was kind of an undertaking. Since I'm the librarian, I know every student in the school. Obviously, I work with them all. So I, within each house, tried to pair the buddies where I would, if I had a really strong reader, could maybe go with a kid that I knew really struggled with
Mhm.
reading, or maybe it wasn't two kids that struggled together, the pairing was very intentional. And next year, their buddies won't be the same because, we have new kindergartners coming in, readers going out. And then, so we're going to switch up their buddies. And then hopefully throughout the years, they'll build even stronger connections with each kid in their house.
I love that. I think that's such a great, it sounds like being very intentional about placing them with their buddies. So yeah, if you're doing this, definitely make sure, you have people who know all the kids to make good decisions there. Cause I can imagine if you, even just personalities, like, okay, these two kids aren't going to get along. There's this really high energy kindergartner and this really, kind of not high energy eighth grader could work, might not. It's always good to keep that in mind. Well, Lisa, this is great. I think you will probably get at least a few emails. And I know I kind of like the idea. My wife's school, they do chapel families, and I might have her think of this because this is kind of a neat idea. Well, can I pray for you before we go, unless there's anything else you want to throw in?
Mm, I don't think there is.
All right. Well, thank you, and let's close in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for Lisa. Thank you for her passion and her energy and her courage to start this Harmony House system at St. Paul's in Janesville. Please be with her as she continues to perform her ministry there and be with the families and students at St. Paul's. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.